a Saturday. Good morning to you all. I've just got back in actually. It's really, really sunny today, which is a nice change because it's been raining, which seems like forever over the last, week. Constant rain. More rain than in the UK. So yeah, I've had enough of it now, completely. So I'm at home, as you can see. It's my long weekend, so I'm able to do my video log from home with the sun streaming in. And actually, although I've got layers, God, it does feel like the UK. I feel a bit warmer than what I was. You know, as I said, there's no central heating in these houses in Australia, so it's bloody cold to say the least. But there you go. Now, this week I wanted to do another vlog about our 30 years together, mine and Daryl's. And this week I really wanted to talk about something. It's a difficult subject. The reason I started blogging over 10 years ago was because of bullying that me and Daryl were going through. Now, it's going to seem... Look, I've talked about this over and over and over, but I think it's only right that it was such a big part of our life and it made us make such important decisions. So I think it's right that I should actually talk about it within our sort of 30-year anniversary. It's not something we really want to remember, and it's not something we really talk about today. We do have odd moments, obviously, but it's important to include it in the 30th anniversary vlogs that I'm doing. I was working for a large charity. For those of you who read the blog, you know very well what charity it is. I'm not going to repeat it on here today. And I enjoyed my job thoroughly. I worked with some amazing people, volunteers, and I had at one stage I had up to 25 plus volunteers. Great bunch of people. They were there out of the kindness of their heart. They were helping me out in my paid position, and it was a job I could have stayed in for life, and it meant the world to me. The job itself was also something I loved. It was to do with books, book valuing, running a bookshop, and I loved every single aspect of it. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from the volunteers. And the people who worked there knew their books, they knew their stuff, and yeah, they taught me a great deal. They taught me a great deal about friendship, about life, about books, and giving back. So much so, I actually decided to volunteer myself, and I became a mentor and advocate for Action for Children. For the first, I suppose 6 years I worked there, everything was fine. It became distressing, should we say, and I can't, when I think back to that period, I can't actually recall the events that brought to my attention that something wasn't right. I think it probably started when Daryl was actually offered a position, same position as me. He was a manager in a large furniture store with the same charity. And he needed to get out of the job he was in. He hated it with passion. And I said, look, come and have a word with my boss and let's see what we can sort out. My boss was, I thought, wonderful lady. She did a lot for me, so I thought. As I know now, nothing could have been further from the truth. She was not the nice person I thought she was. Daryl got the job. I was also still in my job with the charity, so we were in the same area. We were doing virtually the same things. I was helping him if he needed it, etc., etc., and I was showing him the ropes, how to do this and that, and it worked out well. The difficulty arose when, it happened with both of us. So Daryl's volunteer team included some very vulnerable people. And he began to notice that certain individuals were bullying these vulnerable people. And the guy in question who was being bullied had, I believe, my memory's a bit hazy, it was a long, long time ago, but I believe he had some mental health issues. And Daryl took his concerns further. So, in effect, what he was doing was safeguarding this individual. Now, he thought something would be done about it. While this was going on, I was having my own issues at work. So, I was also, I worked with some, I'd say, marvellous people, but they also had their vulnerabilities as well. And one of my volunteers was also being bullied. He was being told to do things that he couldn't physically and mentally do, and it was expected of him. I mean, this guy was not getting paid for doing this at all, and I noticed that he was becoming withdrawn. He was becoming, I don't know, he had that look about him. He was drawn. He was going through a hard time. And I took my concerns further as well. So both of us at the same time were dealing with, you can only describe it as abuse from other members of staff. And we both thought that this would be sorted in some way. It wasn't. In fact, the bullying then happened to us. Daryl himself suffered awful amount of abuse. He was homophobic. He was he was attacked on a daily basis, in effect, and he had to work with these people. The difficulty with these individuals is they were also paid. So his mental health suffered and he became ill and more withdrawn equally. And he took a step back. So he took a step back from the organisation. This was probably about a year into the job. So he took a step back. He was exceedingly unwell. And I carried on. And then the abuse started with me. And I had it from a colleague. And a colleague I actually thought really highly of as well. He attacked me. And, I tried to do something about it. And my boss, who, again, I thought was wonderful, she came, she spoke to me. She said, "We don't need to do this, do we?" She did everything in her power to stop me doing the right thing. I trusted her judgment at the time. I was wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong, and should never, ever have done that. The bullying got worse, a hell of a lot worse. And my mental health also then suffered. And I then became, withdrawn. There's a look that you have. It's kind of like you're dead inside, and that's how I felt and I felt literally on my last legs. I suppose what happened at that point gave me a nervous breakdown, and I was a mess. I was a complete mess. Nothing was done to protect us at all from this organisation. This, you've got to remember, this was a charity, and this was a charity looking after vulnerable people. It also employed vulnerable people, and the people certainly above me directly were, I can only describe as sociopathic in nature. And when I look back now, it still shocks me that these individuals, I keep saying this word, these individuals, these people were in positions of power, but they were in a charity whose organisational structure had not changed since the 1940s when it was established. The structure itself created a system of abuse, and it allowed managers to abuse the most vulnerable. And I found it utterly incomprehensible that this was going on. I denied it was going on. Another colleague, I suppose you'd call it, befriended me, whatever. She pretended she was a psychic. It sounds so far-fetched, but this is all true. And she said she could help. She said she saw my dead grandmother. She said a number of things. So she was, I can only say about this person that she was absolutely 100% evil, claiming that my grandmother was with her for 3 months, I think she said. She sent me lots of messages and emails and etc., and I was forever analysing what was going on. Did I believe her? Did I not believe her? Anyway, at the time, both of us were unwell, and Daryl sort of said to me, "Look, trust her. She's fine." But she wasn't fine at all. She also carried on a series of bullying, systematic bullying. This person I even invited to my wedding, because we were getting married in 2015. I think we were getting married. It was in the September we were getting married, and I sort of not left the position with the charity, but I sort of walked away from it in April. So there was that period of time where she sort of befriended us and became close, and and she was utterly vile, in all honesty. People say to me now, those who were closest to me at the time, they knew what we were going through, and they often say, "Look, how do you feel now about it?" I feel vindicated. Now let me explain that. When we decided to leave our positions, Daryl was actually given a compromise agreement, so he left with a payout, because he knew damn well that what they did to him was awful. He to abuse someone for their sexuality, and for someone for actually whistleblowing, is absolute abomination on that organisation. I can talk about it. I can still talk about it today, because I'm not Daryl. Daryl signed that agreement, and he's never spoken about it since. I didn't sign an agreement. I can speak about what happened. part of the healing process for us was leaving. So we left at that point, 2016. Oh God, end of January, February, we left, moved to Spain. And we were there for about a year and a half, and I had initially it was a message. And it was a message from what's called the Charity Commission in the UK. And they'd heard about my story and they wanted to interview me. And they phoned me up. And this was, I think, it was about 6 months before we left to come back to the UK. And I was able to give my side of the story. Now, the reason this happened is because other bullying episodes, I see I've got to be very careful with how I word it, but other abuses had come to light and they knew of what was going on and what happened to me and my husband. And they wanted to know the facts. This charity, although still in existence, was, what would you call it? I think they were under investigation by the Charity Commission. And in all honesty, I don't even know the outcome of that investigation, pure and simply because I didn't want to know. I didn't care anymore. You know, after a year and a half, 2 years, it had become nothing to me. I just, as I said, felt vindicated because I was able to finally give my point of view. And you can't believe the amount of pressure that was released from inside of me by being able to do that. The blog itself allowed me to write about these experiences, no matter how bad they were. And thankfully, it gave me closure. Although I still, even today, get emails. At one stage I was getting about 100 emails a week from other people who had been bullied. Also from people working in this charity who were being bullied. And they wanted advice and they wanted, you know, they just wanted someone to talk to because they didn't have anyone. And at the time when I was going through it and Daryl was going through it, we didn't have anyone either. I spoke to various helplines and organisations, and they explained to me exactly what was going on. And they said that, you know, my boss at the time was a sociopath. Even when I left the charity on that final day, when I spoke to the head of HR, I was able to tell them what happened. And even she looked at me and said, "There's nothing we can do." That were her words. And she said to me, what in your view, what is going on? And I said, well, it's homophobic abuse. But it's not only that, it's abuse to other members of the organisation, and it's systematic. It was rife throughout that charity. Today, I get the odd, email from time to time. Not often. And people ask how I'm getting on, and you know, look, I actually have a brand new life. I had a brand new life in Spain, a whale of a time. Love Spain. Now I live in Australia. I have proved myself right through the Charity Commission. I have moved on with my life. Bought a house in Australia, live in Australia, having a very comfortable life. Glad to be away, exceedingly glad to be away from the turmoil that was going on 10 years ago. And so happy that, you know, we got out of it and we moved and we left that situation. It was a difficult period. So of our 30 years together, I think it was probably the most difficult. nobody expects, it's certainly at our age, I mean, at the time, what was it, 10 years ago, so we would have been 40, mid-40s, but you don't expect to be bullied in your mid-40s, but that's what was going on. And, you know, most of the time you can take it, but when you don't exactly know what's going on, what do you do? What can you do? The helplines were invaluable, and they explained a lot about sociopathy, about bullying and abuse. You know, they gave me the roadmap of, you know, what to do, and, you know, you need to get as far away from these people as you can. Don't dwell, don't look back, just go. And, you know, I initially, I wouldn't follow that advice. Why should I give up my home? Why should I give up my life for these people? Because of these people. The helpline constantly said, you need to go. Go as far away as possible, because it will just get worse. And they were right. It did get worse. If you're ever in a situation where you're being bullied, don't try and beat the bully, really, because you can't. It just won't happen. We are living proof of that. So we left. We started that new life. This is a continuation of that new life. And I'm happy. A lot happier, really. I do suffer with anxiety now. I don't trust people, so I have very few people in my life. It does make it very, very, difficult making new friends, because it's kind of like me and Daryl against the world. We don't care about other people anymore. You know, once you've been in that situation, you just don't want people in your life again. You gradually overcome these fears, but even after 10 years, you know, the anxiety I suffer with now is astronomical. And it's all sorts of anxiety, from health anxiety to anxiety in open spaces around people. You know, I'm very lucky now to work for a fantastic organisation. And I know when I was living back in the UK in 18 to 22, I also worked for Tesco, wonderful organisation. They did wonderful work with charities, which I also sort of took part in. And they showed me the right way to do things. They weren't a charity per se. They were a business making money and a profit for the organisation. But they were so much more genuine and giving and loving than the actual charity I worked for. You can't make these things up. Before you choose to work for different organisations, do your research. Glassdoor is an amazing website. You can find out all sorts, and make sure you're comfortable with the comments that you read. You're also comfortable with their ethos, their way of looking at things. Make sure you fit within that brand, as I know I do today. And when you do find that happy place, as I have done, it makes for the end of that healing process. So today, me sort of speaking to you it's kind of like the end of that process, but undoubtedly it will always be with me, and I will always speak about it and talk about it and offer advice to other people, because, you know, I write about bullying. I write about how to recognise the signs. I helped kids who were being bullied. You know, it's something now that I will always take with me. It's not going to go anywhere. It's right in there. You know, bullying is a dreadful, dreadful thing, whether it's at school, in the workplace, is awful. In families, you know, it happens and it is dreadful. So, I hope you all have a great week. I hope it's not been too depressing this week. And I will talk to you next week, and hopefully the sun will still be out. I do hope so. And have a good one.